Automation Anywhere Live. This is a session I look very much forward to, both because Automation Anywhere is a very, very big RPA tool and because we have Micah Smith with us here. Hey, Micah.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm well, thank you. Hang on one second, let me make sure. Okay, good. I was just trying to close all my other windows.
Yeah, do that.
I'm doing excellent. I'm happy to be here.
And
excited to chat with you about Automation Anywhere.
I promised the viewers action right from the start, but can you introduce yourself in 10 seconds?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Micah Smith. I'm a developer evangelist at Automation Anywhere. And myself and team are responsible for creating engaging content and experiences for developers so that they can build confidence and build in their skill set in the Automation Anywhere RPA tools.
Nice. And this session is all about installing Automation Anywhere and building some very cool beginner robot, I would say, but some robots that can get us started and learn about the tool. And you promised me that you will explain this to me like I was 5 years old, and let's get started.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen here and we'll get right into it. So for you and for anyone else watching, the very first thing you're going to want to do is register for Community Edition. And Community Edition is Automation Anywhere's free version that can be used by small businesses, it can be used by students or individual developers who are interested in upskilling and learning to use Automation Anywhere. The registration link is here. I think Anders is going to share that as well.
I already did.
Okay, cool. So if you're going to follow along with me, the first step is to register here, give your details, just say get Community Edition. They will email you a link with a URL and a temporary password that you can use to register. Automation 360 is a bit different than other RPA platforms in that it is completely web-based. And I'm going to show you all of that here in a second.
And Mika, I have two questions for you before we continue.
Ahead.
How much does it cost?
Oh yeah, so this is totally free. Community Edition, 100% free to use. All of the training materials and things that I'm going to show today are 100% free as well.
Cool. And when you say it's 100% web-based, what does that mean?
Yeah, so it means that when you're actually doing your development, all of that takes place in a web interface. So you're not opening up Visual Studio Code, you're not opening up some other IDE. Your IDE is actually built into this web interface, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. We call it the RPA workspace, but you basically have all of your commands or your actions on the left-hand side of your screen. You've got a workspace in the middle where you can add your commands in a specific order, right? You just drag and drop them over, and then your configuration is on the far right side. And then when you want to execute your bot, you invoke that all from the web interface as well. So all of this runs on cloud, and your development happens in the browser, your testing happens in the browser, all of your check-ins and checkouts and version comparisons, all of that happens in the browser as well. So it's admittedly, it's different to get used to. But I move very quickly through the interface now, and I actually prefer it to other setups because I can switch machines with no problem, right? If I want to switch to my desktop or switch to a laptop, I can do that. I don't have to worry about like setting up my environment and all that kind of stuff. So super easy to switch around.
And I just have to say, Mika, if I'm turning my head a bit around, it's just to keep an eye on all the good chat activity. And to all of you out there, welcome to the session. And if you have any questions to Mika or Automation Anywhere, post them in the chat. I'll make sure to interrupt Mika and give your questions to him. So just continue, Mika. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, bring all your questions. If anything is not clear as we're going through this, or you have questions about other random stuff, bring them up. So you'll register here. They'll send you that email that has your URL and your temporary password, and you'll go through a very quick registration process. I'm going to not show that part because I've already registered a ton of times. So this is me just logging into that same community environment. You will notice that my URL might be slightly different than yours. There's technically two different community environments. There's community.cloud.automationanywhere.com or automationanywhere.digital, and there's community2.cloud.automationanywhere.digital. So they're the same thing. It's just one is in one region and one's the other. So if you get registered and yours is in a different region, you're still having the exact same experience as me. When you log in, though, right, eventually once you've set your password and all this kind of stuff, this is what you're going to see. And this is a great place to start exploring the capabilities of Automation 360. So you've got your ability to create a bot here, and this is the RPA workspace that I mentioned. You can jump into cognitive automation and using IQBot here, where you're able to use AI and machine learning to set up extraction from forms. That could be invoices, that could be semi-structured forms that are specific to your organization, but you can set up extraction of forms there. You can use bot analytics, or bot insight, I should say, to start to analyze your bots, and you can start to capture values about what your bots are doing, the data that their bots are using. It will put those into helpful dashboards for you that you can then customize to take a look at and get some details about what kind of data is my bot dealing with and what kind of insights can I garner from that. You can explore ARI. ARI stands for Automation Anywhere Robotic Interface. So it sounds like it could be like letters R and E, but really it's AARI, and that's the acronym. But ARI enables for a web interface so that you can have humans and bots working side by side. And so that enables you to, let's say, have a bot that might trigger a task for a human, and the human can then work on that task and finish it. And that might trigger another bot, or that might complete the process, whatever it is. Or it could go the other way, where the task starts off with a human filling out a web form that might invoke a bot. The bot can then go do whatever work it is and then maybe call back to the human with another task, or the bot completes the process. Either way, there's lots of different ways to use ARI, both from a web perspective and then also on your desktop. And then finally, process discovery. So we have process discovery tools, first Discovery Bot, and then as a recent acquisition, Fortress IQ. So you do have the ability to do process discovery. Here we're looking at Discovery Bot only, but it enables you to basically set up a recording. You can record everything that's going on in your screen, and it will analyze that for you and automatically create a bot for you. And this is a good way for organizations to get started with doing some level of process mining and starting to explore what processes are available across their different business units. So,
and what was the company Automation Anywhere acquired?
It's Fortress IQ.
Cool. Thank you.
And Fortress IQ is a leader in the process mining space. So that's not available yet in this interface, but that was a recent acquisition.
Cool.
Okay, so if we're interested in building a bot, where we're going to go is we can either hit this Create Bot here, or if you click on the Automation tab on the far left side of your screen, here you can see like all of the bots that Micah has built. Yours will not look like this because you probably haven't built anything. You'll just have a folder, I think, that says sample bots. So I like to always keep things into subdirectories just so that like when I'm looking back on this later, I can find it. So I'm going to click this folder right here to create a subfolder within my bots directory. I'll call this one Anders Livestream and hit Create Folder. And so now I have a folder. Again, this is just like a Windows repository that I might have set up, right? I've got a folder for Anders, and then I'm going to create a bot inside of that. And we'll call this one First Bot. And I'll hit Create and Edit.
And just to interrupt you, to all you people out there, you can get this for free. You can download Automation Anywhere for free, like Micah just showed us, and you can create these robots. So you might not want to do it during this live stream, but you can you can replay this live stream, and you can do the exact steps that Micah is doing right now to create your own robots. And thank you, Micah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got our environment set up, and if you see, I haven't done anything yet to my local machine, right? I'm in the same situation as you. I haven't installed anything yet. I'm just using what's available in the browser. I have all of my actions on the left-hand side here. So this is really my categorization of tools that I have available to me as an RPA developer or as an Automation 360 developer. And so if I'm working with, let's say, Excel, I can come here and find the Excel Basic or the Excel Advanced package, and then I can choose like which of these actions, like, oh, I want to open an Excel spreadsheet. So I would drag that over to my workspace area here, and then I can start to fill out the specific properties for this particular action. And when I'm doing that, that really enables me to build these bots without having to worry about specific syntax or specific code or things like that. It's drag and drop. I do have the ability to view this in multiple ways. So I can say I want to view flow view, which is this. I can view list view, where everything is just listed out. Or I can do dual, where I can kind of see these side by side. So if I start to drag some other random stuff over here, I can see how they're listed out and everything would go in order. And I can come back here and address any of these if I need to. I'm going to delete that for right now just because I wanted to talk through that interface. The one thing we do have to do, which is a one-time thing, is setting up our bot agent. And the bot agent is the executable that's installed locally on your machine that enables your machine to communicate with the Automation 360 control room, which is running in the cloud. So if you look in this bottom left-hand corner here, I've got a little like exclamation point next to a computer. If I click that, it's basically telling me that there is no bot running device that has been set up. And if I click this button that says connect local device, that will take me through the process of installing this bot agent on my local machine. So I'll click connect to my computer. It's going to automatically download the Automation Anywhere bot agent installer for me. Again, this is a one-time thing that you would do on your machine.
And Micah just went there. I really hope that he will come back. Otherwise, we are left with his ghost. I can see that I'm connected to the internet. I'll try to make sure that he's coming back here. While I am here talking to you,
okay,
Micah is back. Micah?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, you just
awesome
went. So
for my internet to drop out on me.
No problem.
So I'm gonna cancel that. I'm just gonna hit connect to local device again because I need to start that download again. Mine screwed up like right at.
I think this download that interrupts Micah's internet connection, I'm sure he will be back here in 10 seconds. And while Micah is coming back here, if this video helps you, if you want to see more of this, then you can really help me, the channel, and you can help Automation Anywhere. And by giving it a thumbs up, that will improve the reach of this video so we can get out to more. And I think Micah is back. Micah, I don't think we should download this on your computer today.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that download on the live stream again. So I do already have it locally.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead and install that.
Yeah.
So this installation is kicking off, and it's really just one of those next kind of deals. The only specific configuration you'll have to set up is when you install this application you can do it at a system level, which does require admin privileges, or only for yourself. I would strongly recommend the for all users / admin privileges route, because this will install a bot agent service on your machine, and that service will enable you to have that connection to the control room at all times. So that service will start up when your machine starts and you do your login and things like that. But right now, this is going through the process of identifying if I have any proxy set up or things like that, and establishing that in the settings for this particular bot agent. So I hit finish.
And so this one, just to understand you right, I connect the cloud version of Automation Anywhere to my computer. So I will do this to all of the computers that I want to run the bots on, right?
That's right. So any device that you want to use for creating bots or testing bots or running bots, you would need to install that bot agent. If you're working in an enterprise, you can push that out through group policy or SCCM if you want, and you'd be able to not have to go through and do all of these manually. Cool. The other nice thing I'll say about installing the bot agent is that it will automatically update itself in the future when new versions of Automation 360 have been released. So like with .23, there was a new version of the bot agent. On my machines that are bot runners or my machines that I'm using for development, I don't have to worry about reinstalling that in the future. It automatically gets pushed from the control room to my bot runners and to my development machines. So I don't have to worry about doing it myself.
Cool. And we have a question which will be a bit hard to answer, but Pavan Dev, and thank you Pavan for the great question. He's asking, what is the difference between UiPath and Automation Anywhere, and which one has a better future?
I think we'll both have different opinions on that, I would guess. I would say, well, you want to answer that, or you want me to go first?
No, to me, and you will probably not like the answer. I'll say that there's no difference. I mean, both are two great RPA tools, and which one I prefer will be the one that my company suggests that I use. So I'll say that there will be not a lot of difference. What's your opinion on this? I know you work in one of these companies, so you can be a little biased.
Yeah, I will be as objective as possible. I would say the biggest difference to me is, and I'm not a UiPath expert, so I'll preface it with that, is that Automation Anywhere, what I just showed you is where you're doing your building, it's where you're doing your development, it's how you're building out your bots. You're doing it in this web interface. With UiPath, it's it's a local client that you have to install, and it's very .NET driven. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anders, but I'm pretty sure most everything is .NET there.
That's true.
You do have the ability, I think, to run Python scripts and things like that within your bots in UiPath. Is that right?
Yeah, you can use a lot of coding languages.
And you can do the same thing on Automation 360. These packages that are on the left-hand side here, these are all built with a Java SDK. So all of this is Java. You can build your own custom packages as well. And then you also have the ability to run custom JavaScript, Python, VBScript, and .NET DLLs within your bot as well. So I would assume both of them have somewhat similar functionality there. But I think for basic bot building, .NET is required for UiPath, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And Micah, Pavan just made a great addition to his question. You gotta love this. He says, with better future, I mean better money, haha. I
think the same is true for what you mentioned, right? It's take a look at your local market and see who's hiring, see what the typical wages are. I would honestly expect that the wages would be somewhat similar across both, because a lot of developers that are doing Automation Anywhere development have some background in UiPath or vice versa. I mean, it's not like they are purists and only have ever learned one tool. I think a lot of the concepts that you learn will be similar too, right? So Automation Anywhere might call it using Recorder to do web interface actions, but it might be called Spy or something else in UiPath. So I think a lot of those things are similar. It's just the language translation.
Cool. And let's continue with the Automation Anywhere. And again, go ahead. I told you to continue, and then I wanted to say to all the new viewers that we got here, this is Micah Smith from Automation Anywhere. He will show us how to get started. And in case you came in a little bit late, you can rewatch this whole stream afterwards and just continue from here. And if you want to engage in the chat, Micah will answer all your questions to Automation Anywhere.
Absolutely. The other thing we have to do is install the Chrome extension. And again, this is a one-time thing that will auto-update in the future. I'm going to click Need Help here so I can download this extension. Oh, mine's already installed. I just have to enable it. So let me do that. And it has been enabled. We should see it up here now, and I'll pin it so we see it showing up all the time. Now, the web interface here has automatically detected that my extension was installed. It detected my local install of the bot agent. So everything is good. It has established a connection here between my machine, and that's my machine name here, and the control room. So I'm good. As we start to build out bots and as we start to test and things like that, we'll be in good shape because our machine has that established connection. So my bot device is now connected. That's the only install I'll ever have to do for Automation Anywhere. As far as building out our very first bot, one thing that we have built, and Anders, you can share this this link as well. This is the challenge pages link. This is something that we've built as a developer evangelism team here at Automation Anywhere, which is to almost gamify the process of getting started building your first bots. And so there is a number of challenges here that you can try out to build out your first Automation Anywhere bots. And they are listed by difficulty level and with a quick explanation of what they are and how you do it. And then you also have challenge page tutorials that have been set up for some of them, right? So you can go and watch the challenge page tutorial to see how we might solve it or how we might suggest doing it. That's not to say that that's the only way to solve most of these problems, but this is a way to take those on.
Cool.
So we'll build 2 quick bots real quick. The first one we're going to do is this basic login. So I'm going to click on this one that says challenge page basic login, and I'll open that in a new tab. So this is a login page that goes absolutely nowhere. But I want to show you this just so we can start to see the process of creating a bot, so we can see how to interface with a web application, and then how we can also see kicking off a bot and seeing how that runs. So I'm going to open that up in a new tab here and just kind of leave it. And let me copy this URL.
And just to make sure what's going on, this is a sample page that we will use to create a login procedure in the Automation Anywhere cloud, right?
Exactly. Yep. Cool. So that's just a login procedure. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's going to give me some feedback, right? So as soon as I put in a username and password, let me just fill these in real quick. It's going to give me some feedback to say like, hey, it took you 103 seconds and you got 0% accuracy. So we did this so that you have a way to get feedback on what you're doing, and you might try different actions, or you might try them in a different order, or you might play around with things to see how that impacts both the accuracy and the speed of completing these challenges. And so these are just exercises that are designed to enable you to try out those different things and, you know, play around. You're not going to break anything here, and obviously everything that you've got in your code can be reworked or worked again. So we're going to start with this one. The first step that I usually will start with on a bot like this is to go to our browser package, and you can select the open action. And again, I'm just going to drag this over here, and it's going to say, okay, great, tell me about what you want to open. And so I want to say, well, I want this to be a new window. I want this to be in Google Chrome. And the link I want to open was what I just copied. So it's that login.html. And I will hit save. So I've got my first action in my bot. Once that is open, I will use what Automation Anywhere calls the recorder package to interface with that page. So you use this capture action, and I'll drag that over right after my browser open. And in my capture, it's going to say, okay, what do you want to actually capture? And I can choose an application. So if I had a local application running, I could do some kind of interaction with that. In this case, we're going to be using a browser. So if I hit this refresh windows button over here on the far right, it's going to scan my machine to see what windows are open. And here, it sees all of the Chrome windows that I have open. It would do the same thing on applications if I had selected that. But I'm going to select that Automation Anywhere Labs login page. And here it's capturing everything it knows about that page. So what's the page title? What's the link? What's the browser? Things like that. I'm going to click this capture object. And this is where my Chrome extension comes into play. As I start to mouse over objects on this page, you'll start to see that there's a red outline that's showing up. Is that showing up okay for you, Anders?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So you see that red outline that's showing up, and I'm not clicking anything right now. I'm just moving my mouse. But once I found where I want to interact with, I'm going to actually click the left button, which seems weird to say. Like, just click. And that will basically enable Automation Anywhere to capture everything that it knows about that particular object. So we have the DOMX path. We have the HTML ID. We know if it has a frame. We have a path. We have a frame source. There's tons of object properties that it's captured about that particular object. Now, it's selected some of them with these checkboxes because it's identified that those are the ones that will help it to refine this object in the future. If I didn't want it to consider some of these, I could uncheck that box. I'm going to leave it like it is for default for right now. And then I can choose exactly what action I want to take on that particular object. So if I click here, I want to say set text, and I gotta remember what the password is on that thing. Oh, right here. user@automationanywhere.com. There it is. So I'm gonna put that in, and that's gonna be the username that I wanted to fill out, and I will hit save. I'm gonna redo that same capture to fill in the password. So again, I'll go over to my browser on the window. For my dropdown, I'm just gonna select Automation Anywhere Labs. I don't have to rescan or anything like that. And because I've previously used that one, it's showing up at the top as like, hey, do you want to keep using that one again? I'll click Capture Object one more time and click into the password field. And again, it's capturing everything that it knows about the password. I'll grab that password. It's just automation123 with a capital A. For my action to take, I'll again select Set Text as my dropdown. Lots of stuff I could do with this, right? And that action dropdown here is going to change based on the actual object that I've highlighted. So if it was a drop-down list, or if it was a button, or if it was some other web object, my options for actions change a little bit. Here you'll see that it's actually a little bit different than what we just saw before. It's recognized that this is a password field. So that enables me to use a credential, which is a value that I pull from the Automation 360 Credential Vault, which allows me to securely store and retrieve passwords or secure values. I'm just going to use an insecure string here because we have it just in plain text, and this is not like a real bot. But you could do it either way.
Cool.
I'll hit save.
Micah,
Yes.
I will leave you in 20 seconds, so you need to educate the audience while I'm away, because I realized that I forgot to include a present that I got from you in this stream, so I will pick that up, and you can just talk for the next 30 seconds, okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so if you're just joining, definitely put all your questions in the chat. Anders and I will try to address all of them. You can ask about Automation Anywhere development. You can ask about being a developer evangelist. Whatever you want to talk about is fair game with me. So we've done our username. We've done our password. The last thing we need to set up is clicking on that submit button. So I'll drag that over. One more capture. And again, I will select browser here. I'll select on the Automation Anywhere Labs login dropdown and select capture object. Again, I'm going to highlight in red over this blue button here that says sign in. In this case, my action to take is actually going to be a click because I want to click on that button and submit the login. So I'm going to hit save here. I'm also going to close this sample window that we had open because my bot is going to launch that on its own. So I want to make sure that my bot has full control to do that and that we're not having confusion about which window because they're named the same and they're the same URL.
Cool.
All good, Anders?
Yeah, and thank you for this cup. And as the regular viewer of this channel knows, I love coffee a lot. Micah knows that too, so he sent me this cup. Thank you, Micah. I will drink some coffee while I watch the show.
Absolutely. Cheers to you, sir. We will click run here, and that will initiate our bot run. And so what's technically happening at this point is the control room is sending a request to my local bot agent that we installed to invoke this bot. And it's including with that all of the packages that are needed to execute this bot. So my bot launched the page, it did that login really quickly, and I got feedback to say, hey, you got it right, your accuracy was 100%, and it took you 0.3 seconds, right? So because I've seen that, now I can change around my bot and see like, hey, is there ways to make this go faster? Does it matter the way that I'm doing that? And one thing we could try to do here, I'm going to drag this over a little bit so we can see a bit better. So the way that I would typically do a login like this, right? I'm going to type my username. I'm going to hit tab as a human, and then I'm going to put my password. And then I usually still click the button. Maybe everyone else hits tab to enter the button. But I can actually simulate some of those keystrokes here. So on the far right-hand side of my screen of this particular keystroke field, I can enter a tab. I can then enter my password right after it. And then I could technically do tab enter. Let's try that. So that means that I'm going to disable these other two actions right here. You can do that with Control /, just like you would like in Visual Studio Code. That's how you usually comment out lines. So what's going to happen here is it's going to enter the username. This is not correct. It's going to enter the password, which is supposed to be automation123 right there. Then it's going to tab and enter. So that should enable it to go crazy fast to do that login. As with any RPA tool or any automation, you do want to make sure that you're not going faster than the application you're automating is able to keep up with. So I could run into that situation here where it's actually going too fast for the web application to have even launched and be ready to go. So it's just something you want to be aware of as you're, now it's going even slower. Cool. So it did it slower that time because I had these individual keystrokes. If I have a tab in here, it's going to do those one by one as opposed to pasting everything in at once. So that actually went slower. But that enables me to see, okay, well, that's not the best way to do it. I need to go back to doing it the way that I had it. And that would enable me to have the faster time there. So that's one bot down. Anders, any questions you want to talk about?
We have great questions in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt your nice demo here, so I will bring them to you. And when I look at this, Micah, it seems very intuitive to build these bots. And I will say that if you have used one RPA tool, building in Automation Anywhere or any other RPA tool is pretty similar. Wouldn't you say that?
I would say so. I mean, like I said, the language probably changes a bit from tool to tool and exactly where things are located. But I think that a lot of the concepts are going to be similar when you look at core RPA functionality. I think when you get beyond that, then you start to say like, okay, IQbot, RE versus some of the other capabilities of cognitive capabilities of other platforms, then things might start to get slightly different.
Cool. And we'll take the questions now, and then we can get back to the next part because I really want to see more, Micah. And again, thanks for being here. Sajiv, thanks for the question, Sajiv. He says that UiPath offers UIRD certification. What is the equivalent in Automation Anywhere? And
so there's two certifications for Automation Anywhere. You can get to learning more about those at Automation Anywhere University. So it's university.automationanywhere.com. There are two certifications. There is an advanced certification where you're basically going through a series of training or a learning trail, and then you would take a certification exam. And I think you have to get above a 75% on the exam. Don't quote me on that part. But you have to pass that exam, and then you would have the advanced certification. And then from there, there's also a master's certification. And for the master's certification, I believe that there's slightly more coursework, and then you would go through and build a series of, I think you do 3 bots, and you would submit those. Those bots are analyzed, and then you would get a score back. And assuming that you pass that, you would have a master's certification. So those are the 2 certifications that are available in Automation Anywhere. And the training for those is all available here, though.
Cool. And let me quickly interrupt you, Micah, because the 26th of February, I will be having, I'm dragging in this live stream here. I'll be having an Automation Anywhere live stream where I will study for this Automation Anywhere certification. You can join that too. I will share my screen for a whole 8 hours, and you won't believe it, but the guest will be Micah and his as good colleague Arjun. He will join us too to help us getting certified. And if you want the link, I'll just copy the link in the chat. You can come on the waiting list, so you will get notified when it starts. I'll paste it in the chat now, and you will be present there as well, Micah.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird time for me, but I will be there for at least part of it. I'll try and hang out for a little bit in the beginning so that we can talk Automation Anywhere. But yeah, it will be this Automation Anywhere Certified Advanced RPA Professional Prep that you'll be going through. It's a free e-learning thing, and you'll go through. It'll cover some of the same stuff that we talked about, getting registered for your control room, installing your bot agent. But then it goes further into explaining the tool and how it works and building bots and how things can work in production and things like that.
Is it possible for us to, so me and the viewers to the channel that will attend this stream, is it possible for us to pass, you think, in 8 hours?
I think you can do it. Yeah.
Cool.
I think if I remember correctly, you do like a Tabata kind of approach where you take a break every hour or something like that.
Yeah, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes break, 25 minutes work, 5 minutes. So 2 breaks per hour, small breaks.
Got it. Yeah, I think that'll really help to break it up a little bit. I think you can definitely pass it though. I would say that as a tip for anyone who's on this session, make sure that when you're doing the test, you have keep the course materials up. Take notes as you're going through it, right, of things that you think are particularly interesting. But I would also have the documentation open. So if you go to docs.automationanywhere.com, that can be a helpful resource if you're not totally clear on a particular subject and that subject is showing up on the exam. Go search for it. The exam is timed, so you can't obviously like sit on this forever, but you do have the ability to go and search through documentation if there's a question that maybe has to deal with the interface, have the actual interface up. If there's a question that has to do with invoking a bot or running a bot as a bot runner, have the documentation open. It can be a helpful reference as you're trying to figure out the answer to the question or brush up on a subject that maybe you felt like you didn't understand terribly well.
Cool. And I think I will consult you just to make maybe a 5-minute guide to how we can prepare for the session, like what we like this page and what we need to bring us, or maybe read a bit prior to it. So I'll make a small video about that. And thanks for the great questions, Saif. And Micah, I'll just bring you the other questions. I'm not sure you can answer each one of them, but I'll test you. So Automation Anywhere went from thick client to browser, which was a big move. What is the next big thing / change that would come with a 360?
Man, I don't know if I can say exactly what it is. I also don't I don't know exactly what it is. I know like 1 or 2 releases forward. I don't know beyond that. I would say that the next biggest thing is going to be integration with Fortress IQ. Their ability to do process mining is really, really interesting. Their CEO, Pankaj, is got a great vision for what was missing in that process mining space and what was created. And I heard him discuss it where, if you're running a web page, there's a ton of things that you can install so that you can have analytics about that, where people are clicking, how people are engaging with things, what the flow is, right? They start here, then they go over to this other page. That's pretty easy to do with a web app. It's not easy to do when I'm using a web app, then I'm using Excel, then I'm using 3 or 4 other custom applications that are native to my environment. So what their vision for that was to understand what are the ways that we can understand how people are interfacing with these different apps. How do we capture that? And how do we process that in a way intelligently to understand what that entire flow or what that process looks like? So I think that's going to be the next big thing. You're totally right that moving from thick client to browser-based was a huge change. I'll also say that from the ground up, that represented a gigantic change for Automation Anywhere. If you look at .10 or .11 for Automation Anywhere, those were based in .NET. And so now when you switch over to a fully cloud-native platform, we're looking at basically all of the services and microservices that make up the control room were written from the ground up. The same goes with our bot agent and the actual bots themselves, now Java based. So not only was it moving from thick client to browser, but also like a complete re-architecture to make it much more scalable and to be designed to be cloud native. So it's a cloud first product. It's designed for almost infinite scale, and the microservices installed in the cloud are evidence of that. So yeah, I think that's you're right that that's a big change. I think the next big thing will be tighter integration with Fortress IQ. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Cool. Thanks, Nikendra, for the great question. And the next question I will address because Pavan asks, why is Lara in blue and others are in white? Is she an Automation Anywhere robot? No, Lara is not an Automation Anywhere robot. She is, in fact, a colleague of Micah. She is a developer evangelist at Automation Anywhere. I made her a moderator of the chat. And just to state, I'm receiving no money for having this stream. I do it because I was so curious that I wanted, and Micah receives no money from me either. So this is just because we thought it would be cool to do something together. And I made Lara a moderator because she could look after the chat, and it looks like she's answering some great questions there. So keep them coming. I'll bring them to Micah, the other ones. And if you want to support this stream, you can give it a like. That will really help me. And you can participate in the chat. That will help the stream to get further out. I'll really appreciate that. And thank you for everyone attending, even though if you're just sitting in the sofa and watching, it's appreciated. Thank you. So, Micah, I will see if we have more questions. This is from Jeepa. Is there a way for developers to see the roadmap of Automation Anywhere, future, updated, and so on?
Yeah, we're working on bringing more transparency to that. Currently, there are some roadmap previews that are going on for certain customers where we're getting feedback, sharing our vision, and things like that. But we're working to bring better visibility for all for the roadmap. So I can say it's a work in progress. If you connect with your account manager or possibly your CSM, there might be things that they can talk to you about on the roadmap. But we're working on bringing better visibility to that publicly so that people can see and learn more about that on a more global scale. And Anders, to your point real quick, I wanted to not let this go. I do think it's really interesting and impressive to me that you're very forthcoming about who's paying and who's not. I think it's very important for someone in your role because you can be trusted, right? If you were being paid by someone, then you start to say like, well, is Anders being totally honest here or not? But because you've been so forthcoming in who's paying you, who's not, if this is your opinion or this is not your opinion, I think it's great. So definitely encourage that. And I'm here because I support your stream and I want this to do well for you.
Thanks a lot, Micah. And Micah, I will bring you 3 more questions. I think we will answer them a bit quicker. Not that they are not good, but that's then fine. We want to see about. So HSA, okay, hey, and thanks for joining. He says that, is there any way for us to provide feedback on packages or to provide suggestions?
Absolutely. If you go to the apeople community, apeople.automationanywhere.com, you can ask questions here. There's Lara. You can post your feedback. If there are specific issues you're having with a package or there's specific feedback you want to share, put it here. Tag me if you want. You should be able to find me. It's like at Micah. Probably just at Micah Smith. But yeah, you should be able to tag me there. And I can try and bring those up with the product team. I capture a lot of the feedback that we have from the developer community, and I take that up with the product team so that we can have some of these developer requests addressed. So definitely put them here. You can also go to the support channel at support.automationanywhere.com, and you can put in a feature request there as well. But feel free to put them on apeople and tag me.
Cool, thank you. And Vicky, thank you, Vicky, for making this question. Asks, which language will help to excel in Automation Anywhere?
I mean, you really don't have to know a specific language. I would say, and this is what I would say for probably most RPA platforms, is having a background in web development can help you, because as you start to interface with different web applications, as you start to interface with different lists or fields, or you have to iterate through things on a page, understanding the structure of a page and how you can have divs inside of divs and DOM-X paths and things like that, that will really help you to be as efficient and as effective as possible on a web interface. I would say that JavaScript is also really good to learn because you can actually inject JavaScript into a page and execute that from Automation Anywhere. So that's a really good one to learn. And then Python is also good. I mean, I think the cross-section of RPA developers who are also interested in Python is pretty big. So Python's also a general good programming language to learn and one that you can use with Automation Anywhere.
Cool, thank you. And Lara asked if it's coffee here in my Automation Anywhere cup. Yes, it is coffee. I drink too much coffee, and Pavan comes me to the rescue. He says that he will send me some Indian tea. Thanks, Pavan. I think I should drink more tea. Then people ask some general questions about document processing. Is that something that we are capable of with Automation Anywhere?
Yeah, so in Automation Anywhere, if you go back to this Explore tab here, I'll leave this page. You can use IQBot for that. And IQBot enables you to create these different learning instances. And those learning instances can be set up to enable you to extract content from pages. So there are several different types of learning instances you can create. You can do one off of invoices. If you go here to train other documents, you have the ability to create learning instances off of these types, right? So credit memo, invoices, bank statements, purchase orders, utility bills. These are available in Community Edition. There's also a bunch of other pre-trained types that are available here as a part of the core product, which is the enterprise product. But then you also have the ability to do other. So if yours is a custom type and you want to set that up and, hey, it's forms that are specific to my organization, you can do that. You can bring in samples. You can select exactly what fields from your form you want to extract and go through that process of creating a learning instance. We have some videos on that on our YouTube channel, so I would encourage you to check that out. But yeah, you can set up these learning instances and then invoke them from your bot.
That's so cool, Micah. Micah, we have a lot more questions for you. It seems like you're quite popular. So, but I will stop with the questions now, and then I really want to see the next bots, and we can take the questions afterwards. So, to you people out there, please let the questions coming. I will bring them to Micah after he built the second bot.
Cool. So the second bot we're going to do is another one of these challenges. Let me go back here. We're going to try this online grocery ordering, and this is slightly more complex, but what we're going to do here is download a CSV of the favorite foods, right? So there's going to be a CSV here we're going to download. We will then add each of those items from the CSV to this shopping list. Mm-hmm. So we'll add, whatever it is, eggs, and hit add item. We'll keep doing that for all of the items in that shopping list. We'll acknowledge the terms and then submit our order. And it's going to give us our feedback again. So this is the challenge we're going to take on for right now.
Cool. And Micah, what is a CSV?
Oh yeah, sorry. A CSV is a comma separated values. Man, you asked me too quickly, and then CSV is comma separated values. It's similar to what you would see almost like an Excel spreadsheet. Everything is separated. We'll look at one here in a second. Actually, we'll download it right now because we need to do that.
Cool.
So here's that CSV. I'm going to open it in Excel, but it's basically two columns. We have a family member, and then we have their favorite food. What we want to do for this exercise is grab all of the favorite foods, add those to the shopping list, and then submit it. So this is just extra data here that there happens to be a person attached.
Cool.
All right, so I'm going to create one more bot here. Let's call this, what was it? We'll call it favorite foods. Now, when we did our first bot, we just grabbed our actions, pulled them right over, and then that's how we built it out. This one is slightly more complex. So what I'm going to do is if I come down here to step, there is a step action. And if I drag those over, steps essentially enable me to create the building blocks of my bot, and then I can minimize these steps, right? And it's almost like a way of forcing me to do documentation. So my first step is going to be to launch, spell that correctly, page and download CSV, because that's the first thing that I have to do. And so I like to think of these steps as like the general skeleton of like putting down my general logic, and then I'll go back through and fill in the specific code to accomplish that. And it's kind of like doing to-do statements in another programming language where I'm kind of mapping out what I want to do, but I need to come back in and fill that in later. My next step here is going to be open CSV, add items to list. And then my final will be accept terms and submit. And I know this is a really basic example, and that's totally fine. We have to learn to crawl before we can walk and walk before we can run. As you start to build more complex bots, you'll have steps inside of steps. But this is a great way to kind of break up your logic and, sectionalize it so that you know that if I'm just working on this step, I know exactly what needs to be done here. This is especially helpful if you're working with multiple developers. And hey, I'm going to take on this part, Anders is going to take this one, and Laura is going to take this one, right? So good way to break that kind of stuff up.
And just to clarify, so these are containers for actions, and they're not necessary, but they help us getting a nice overview and making the workflow a bit cleaner to look at and work with. Is that right? Cool.
Yep. So functionally, they're not going to affect anything, but they're just a way for me to make my bot look a little bit better. It also helps when I'm going to be going over my bot. Let's say that a business user wants to talk about my bot. They probably don't want to see 500 lines. But if I just show them the general steps, they can probably understand what's going on, right? We're launching the page, we're opening the CSV to add the items to the list, and then we're accepting the terms. If that's how I explain my bot to someone, they're probably going to get it. They don't need to see this level of detail of like every single action. So lots of good reasons to use steps.
Cool. And just to interrupt you again, if I were a business user, is this the version of Automation Anywhere that you would recommend me starting with?
Yeah. So this is, as we saw with that first one, I didn't type any code. Everything is just dragging and dropping things and then setting configurations on the right-hand side here. So this is designed to be very user-friendly, very approachable. And, we see lots of citizen developers or business users who start to build their own automations. It may not mean that a business user is building the most advanced automation that exists within an organization, but if it's solving problems for their team or solving problems for things that they're doing manually on a daily basis, we see that very frequently.
Cool.
Just like we did last time, I'm going to open a new browser window for Google Chrome. My link, I need to copy that guy, is right here. And again, Anders shared the link to the challenge pages kind of root page. All of the challenges that we've done today can be found there. It's this one right here. And there's more. So if you want to take it further, we've got them kind of marked out by difficulty, so you can take on some of the more challenging ones. I know someone mentioned something about IQbot and invoice processing earlier. This is a challenge that includes IQbot. So if you wanted to set up IQbot and learn to use that, this would be the challenge for you. We've got our browser open. We also want to download that CSV. So I'm going to go down to my recorder action or my recorder package and select my capture action right here. Again, I'll hit this refresh icon to see all of the windows that are open from a browser standpoint. I've got my Automation Anywhere Lab shopping list, so I will click Capture Object there and click to download favorite foods. Again, you can see it's kind of like turning everything else on the screen not in a red outline, so that's how I can interface with this. So that will be a click for my action, and that will enable me to download the file. And after that, I'm going to add a slight delay. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that my download has completed before I try to actually open up that file. So I'm going to add a delay of, let's say, 2 seconds. That's probably on the high side, but I always encourage people who are building bots, again, regardless of the platform they're using, to add delays or at least add conditional statements where needed so that they can make sure that they're not moving faster than the application or the, in this case, the operating system is able to keep up with. An alternative to that would be to add a conditional statement, which would be an if statement to say, hey, does this file exist? If it doesn't, maybe I put that in a loop to wait and then check for the file again. But adding a delay here will be sufficient for what we need to do. So we've launched the page. We have downloaded the CSV. The next thing we want to do is actually open up that CSV. So there is a CSV TXT package here. You can also access any of these by search. So if I don't really know, like I know I'm working with a CSV, I can type that in. It's going to show me all of the CSV related actions. If it was something a little bit more generic, where I said like string, for instance, right? This is my Boolean to string, date time to string. This is also all of my string actions. So this is a good way to be able to find actions if you don't really know exactly what it's called, but you kind of know what it deals with. You can find them that way. So our CSV txt, the first thing I want to do is open that CSV file. And here it's going to say, do you want to open a file that's on your control room or that is on your desktop? For me, it's a file that's on my desktop. I'm going to grab that file. It's called shopping list CSV. So I'm just going to copy this path here. I could do it by browse as well. I guess we'll do it that way just to do it. Downloads and then shopping list CSV. I'll open that. Now it's asking me some properties about that file. So is it actually a CSV or is it a TSV or some other separator? For me, it is a comma separated file, so we're going to leave comma here. We also want to mark that it contains a header, right? Because we see family member and food, so we see that. I'm going to mark that it contains a header. The reason that you do this is because we're about to do some looping, and looping allows me to iterate through a file and go through every single line in this case, right? But looping is an iterator, so repeating over and over again. If I had left contains header unchecked, as a part of my loop, one iteration of my loop would be what is the header data. Because I don't really want to go through that one, I can just select it has a header, and that way my loop will only go through the data and not the header value. You can do it either way. If you're going to uncheck this one, you would just need to make sure to skip that first iteration of your loop, and you can do that, but the easiest way is just to mark that contains header. We've got our CSV open. Now, if I'm a human, I am a human, but if I'm going to fill this out manually, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go oatmeal, I'm going to copy it here, I'm going to put that into the interface, paste it, and then hit add, right? I'm going to do those steps over and over. I'm going to grab it from the CSV, I'm going to enter it in this web interface, and I'm going to hit add item. Because those are things that I'm going to do over and over again for each item in my list, that's a clue to me that this isn't a situation where I should be using a loop. So let's go back to our bot here, and we're going to add a loop after our open CSV.
And while Micah finds the loop, if you just joined the stream, this is Micah from Automation Anywhere. He shows us how to get started with Automation Anywhere, and you can easily build the bots that he builds here. You can build them after the session. You can just rewatch the video and do everything he does. You have 2 Automation Anywhere bots right there at you, and they're very easy to build. You don't need any code.
Exactly. For my loop, I will choose an iterator. And the iterator is saying, what is the thing you want me to know to go off of to increment this loop, right? So it could be like a count. I could say, hey, for 10 times, I want you to go through this loop. For me, I'm going to say for each, let's see, what do we want to do? CSV. For each row in a CSV or TXT file. So for every single row, it's going to go through that loop as one iteration. So it could be, if I have 50 items in my list or if I have 5 items in my list, this is going to work either way. When it returns the data to me of that row, right, I can choose how I want to see that. Now, one of the variable types in Automation 360 is a record. So I'm going to hit the plus sign here to create a new variable. And I'm going to call this one lowercase r current row. The naming doesn't have to match mine exactly. It's kind of up to you. I like using this Hungarian naming style where the first letter is lowercase and represents the data type, and then it's camel case naming after that. So I'm going to hit create and select there. And a record essentially represents a row of data. So this would be a single record. This would be my second record. This would be my third record, right? So if I had 50 columns or if I had 2 columns, either one of those would represent a record.
Cool.
So I've got a record, which is my current row. Now that I've got that data, And we talked about copying it from the Excel. We don't actually need to copy it. We just need to get it into a variable. I now want to paste that into my browser. So I'm going to use that capture action again. I'll go to browser. I will select the previously selected Automation Anywhere Labs shopping list and hit capture. In this case, I want to highlight over that grocery items to list field and click. Just like we saw in that first exercise, it's going to capture everything that it knows about that particular field and allow me to select an action that I want to take. In this case, I want to set the text. So I'll click Set Text. Now, before we hard-coded exactly what text we wanted. That's not going to work this time because we have to enter a dynamic range of values. So I'm going to press F2 on my keyboard. Alternatively, you can click this button right here, which looks like an X inside of parentheses. That will bring up my Variables Explorer. And here I can select from my created variables what I want to enter in there. I want to enter a value from current row, which is my record variable. And here I can select that record either by name, so that would be the header value, or by index, which would be zero-based indexing. So I'm going to put 1 here, right? Because we want the data not in the family member column, which would be column 0. We want it from the favorite food column. So I'm going to put 1 there and hit insert. That's going to loop, right? So we're going to open that CSV. We're going to loop through it. And every single line in our CSV, we're going to be entering whatever is that current row data into that field. Now, in addition to just entering the data, we also have to click the button to add the item. So I'm going to add one more capture step here. I'm going to go back to browser. I'm going to go to my shopping list page and hit capture object. I will click this add item button. And that means every time we enter the text, we also want to click the add item button, right? So we want both of these things to occur for every row in our CSV. We're done with this step. The final step we have to do is we will drag over a capture step. We have to accept the terms and conditions of this page, right? Because every application has some terms and conditions. So we'll come here and say, yes, I accept these. And then the last thing we're going to, so we need to take the action here. Notice our actions change a little bit. I can get the status, or I can select it, or I can get a property. I'm just going to click, but the actions changed a little bit because we're using a radio button now instead of a regular button. And then the last action we need to take is to submit. So I'll go again back to browser, back to Automation Anywhere Labs. I will click on this submit order button. And my action to take here would be a click. And we're good to go. I'll hit save. So my 3 general steps are to launch the page, download, open the CSV and add items to list, and then accept the terms and conditions. What I'm going to do is close that. I had a shopping list one earlier. I'm going to delete that. And I'll delete this one so we know that it's downloading a new version of this. If you want to take it further, you could to see if the file exists and delete it. If it does, you could build that into your bot as well. I'm also going to close this exercise page because we know the bot is going to launch it. And then I'll hit run. Oh, I have a bot error. Let's see where that is.
And that is always it's always nice in these live build when to see that everything works. But it's also nice to see debugging. What did you fix here?
So if you see here, there's a red icon that shows up next to my action, and it shows up here too. So it kind of, it did show up. It gives me a clue of which one has an issue. I forgot to select an action to take. So this was just left on, it was left on a status I can't select now. But I changed this to click, and that would resolve my issue. And so I'll be able to run it now without problem.
Cool.
So sometimes when you're recording that object and then you're also talking about it, you forget to select the specific dropdown. So that was my fault.
No problem. And while we're waiting for this to run, we can see it run in the background and we can see your accuracy. Nicholas, he comes with a question. Nicholas asks if you can create queues in Automation Anywhere, and maybe you can explain what queues is, if it's actually possible in Automation Anywhere, because I can see it work with actually this very workflow.
Yeah, so a couple things on queues, just so that we're all kind of speaking the same language. In Automation Anywhere, you do have the ability to do what's called workload management. And with workload management, I can add tasks to a queue list, and those would be kind of tasks that are waiting to be worked on. I would have a pool of bot runners, which are essentially headless machines waiting to pick up work and work on it. So that's one concept of having queues. The other queuing concept is that if I had run this bot, and let's say I had like 10 other bots I needed to run, I could send those tasks to the same bot runner machine, and they would queue up, and after this one's done, the next one would start, and after this one's done, the next one would start, right? So that also enables me to queue up work for a specific bot runner. But in that case, it's more linear. It's not spread out across multiple bot runners. Does that answer the question, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, otherwise, Nicholas, I can see that Lara actually also answered in the chat. I just thought that it was would be useful to have here in the stream as well. And if you want, Micah is not done. He will stay here and answer some questions. And but if you want more Micah and Automation Anywhere, Micah will join me at the 25th of February, where we will see how we can integrate Automation Anywhere with Pixibricks. And let me mention that I'm actually getting paid by Pixibricks to do content for them in the next week and the following one. And Micah was so kind to help me here. And again, I don't give him any money. He is just so kind. He's so kind that he come and help. And we will see how we can integrate the two tools. I'll post the link to that session in the chat if you want to get notified when we are online.
Very cool. Yeah. So Anders, that was the second bot build. Happy to answer any questions about Automation Anywhere, bot building, career progression, developer evangelism, whatever you want to talk about.
We have some questions, but actually Lara and other people have been so good to answer a lot of them in the chat. But I still think that I will bring them because we have some time where you will stay. So Kaisen Corner, he says, how to add external packages to Automation Anywhere? Can we create libraries?
Yeah, so basically the equivalence of creating a library is creating a package, and you would do your custom packages in the package SDK, which is in Java, and to that Java SDK, you can add all of your custom libraries that you want to reference. So like this is one I just brought up on my screen here that I wrote that is the Salesforce package, right? So in the build.gradle, I added external dependencies for like the Apache HTTP requests and things like that. You can add those libraries as you need them. And so you can create your own custom packages. Once you've created a custom package in the enterprise version of Automation 360, you'll be able to come here to this packages tab, and there will be a little plus sign here that enables you to add them, and they will show up listed in the same user interface just like any other package. So like Credential Manager is one that I wrote. Currency Conversion is one that I wrote, right? So those will show up in my user interface and be indistinguishable from other packages, right? You can add an icon to them. So this is one that I created a while ago, and for all intents and purposes, you wouldn't know that this was created by some random guy versus the Automation Anywhere product team. So yeah, you can create those custom packages and add them.
Cool. And then Seth, hey Seth, and thanks for joining. He asked you specifically, Micah, what is your favorite bot or workflow or command package?
My favorite bot, I've used this story before, but I wrote a bot a while ago when we were looking to buy a car. And
that story I like. Sorry to interrupt, and go ahead and tell that.
Yeah, so there are several websites that you can use, at least here in the US, when you're buying a car. And I was looking to buy a Prius, so I wanted to find details related to a Toyota Prius all around the nation, right? I wanted to get the best deal. So I wrote a bot that would scrape all of the details for all the Prius listings, used Prius listings, across the nation. And I had it write all of the details for those Priuses into I guess Priuses is the plural of Anyway,
don't ask me about English grammar. I mean, I'm so broken. So
yeah, I had it write those to an Excel spreadsheet, and then I had it apply a formula for me, which was to say I want to take if I expect any car to last 150,000 miles, I would take 150,000 minus the current mileage, right, which would tell me the remaining life of the car, and I want to divide that by the price, and that will tell me the price per remaining mile for the vehicle's life, and that enabled me to compare vehicle listings across a huge number of listings, even if the cars were slightly newer or slightly older. So when I sorted by that, that enabled me to have a data point that wasn't available otherwise to be able to say, hey, this is a really good deal on a car, this is not. Now, obviously, there's some other factors like, was that car in a wreck? Is it like 20 years old, right? So you do have to do some logic to weed out which ones aren't going to be good fits, but it enabled me to see the data in a different way that wasn't presented online anywhere, and I could make a more informed decision about car buying. So I flew to Florida. I bought this one specific Prius because it was one of the top deals in the nation, and then I drove it back. So that's like an example of me building a bot for something that I care about. And it was a great way for me to be able to learn more about bot building because I was solving a problem that I cared about. And I think that's an important thing for anyone who's learning something new. Take a problem you actually care about, solve that, and you'll be much more interested in learning whatever the tool is.
For sure, that's a great advice. Building something that you use in your daily life, or a problem that you want solved. That could be like build an automation anywhere robot that opens up your favorite programs, navigate to places in those programs that you want to use. That could be a good first use robot. And Janice T asks, she or he is Janice. Is that do we know? No. Sorry if this has already been asked. I believe that this is a new Automation Anywhere user. Hello, Janice. Thanks for joining. Can I use Automation Anywhere to extract data from PDF to Excel?
Absolutely. I would say it also depends on the PDF, right? There's actually lots of flavors of PDFs. There's image-based PDFs. There are text-based PDFs. There are form-based PDFs. And then there's all kinds of like PDFA, like lots of archive types and things like that. To answer very generally, you would be able to extract data from a PDF using IQBot, and that enables you to basically establish relationships between data on a form and do the extraction that way. That will work for image-based and text-based PDFs. Alternatively, there are ways that you can, from the PDF package here, extract data from PDFs. You can find that. So there's just PDF utils. There's also this other PDFs package. But in PDF utils, you can read form fields. And that would enable you, if it's a form-based PDF, so not one that's an image-based, that would enable you to extract data from it systematically just by knowing the form's ID for each field. And then you can extract that data and work accordingly. Alternatively, you could try this. The PDF action here enables for extracting text and extracting images and fields. So a couple different actions you could try to explore to work with the specific PDFs you're using.
Cool. Thanks, Micah. And this question that I'll put on to Micah in a second will be the very last, but it's a very interesting one, so make sure you stick to the end. And thanks to all people showing up and watching Micah build. Thanks to all of the people that wrote in the chat, that voted in the polls and stuff like that. And of course, thanks to you, Micah. Thanks for taking your time. And
absolutely.
One last question, Micah. If I have a lot of viewers and people asking me if we want to have an Automation Anywhere job, of course we should start get a certification. But how do we go on from there? How could we get into this world and maybe broaden our network a bit?
I think the best way is to obviously get your certifications, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and Anders is going to be doing a session on that later this month, so I'd encourage you to do that if you're not currently certified. The other is that most organizations are going to want some kind of proof that you are what you say you are, right? Besides being certified, they will want some evidence of bots that you've built, packages that you've built, solutions you've built. So I would encourage you to build something, put it on YouTube, build something, put it on our Automation Anywhere bot store, where you can find freely available bots and packages that you can use in your Automation Anywhere builds. You can download these, you can install them into Community Edition, you can try them out. But I would say that the best way to demonstrate expertise is by having that expertise visible by others. So, hey, I built a bot, I put it on Bot Store. If you're interested in hiring me, go check out all the bots that I built on Bot Store. It's an example of my work. They work really well. You can also look at videos of them that I put on YouTube. So if you're a person who doesn't have experience, but you want to be able to create experience, to be able to get that first RPA job, those are both excellent ways to do so. And they're great for being able to demonstrate your expertise and kind of have that in your portfolio.
Cool. Thanks, Micah. This was the last question. I know that we have more questions. I'll make sure to send them to Micah, and I can post them as answers below the video in a couple of days. So that was it. See you, Micah.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out, everyone.
Cool. I ended the stream. Do you have